Hello there everybody, welcome back to a brand new album review. Today we're looking at the newly released archival live album from 1973 by Canadian musical legend Neil Young and his band at the time, the Stray Gators, entitled Tuscaloosa. Neil Young is of course a heavyweight in his field and has been hailed as one of the greatest singer-songwriters of all time, and on top of that has been credited as one of the forefathers of the grunge movement and generally holds a musical prestige very few manage to attain. Young has now started releasing an archival series of stuff that's been previously bootlegged, much like Bob Dylan's bootleg series, and his last instalment, Hitchhiker, really managed to captivate me and produce some really great recordings and demos that were previously unheard officially. Now, this new recording on Tuscaloosa is of course live, but some of Neil Young's best work has been his live albums, especially the two released in the late 70s with the backing of the band Crazy Horse. This time around we get a look into Young around an earlier sensitive stripped back period just after the release of Harvest. Sadly, Neil seems to fall a bit flat and lacks a certain drive which he managed to pull off on these other live albums as well as the studio recordings of these tracks. At first I felt that the problem may lie in the fact that these particular tracks were missing the warm acoustic studio sounds found in their original album counterparts, but given that they are so masterfully pulled off on the Live at Massey Hall 1971 concert album, that doesn't really seem to be the case. It may be true that the problem lies in the production and mixing feeling limp and lifeless, but again, I'm not fully convinced that that's the sole underlying reason. Unlike the previously released archival album of Hitchhiker, I do believe that there is a very good reason as to why this was shelved. It's not incompetent or misplayed to any great degree, but it does trot along without getting anywhere. The emotional drive is what's lacking. I never felt as if Young was putting his all into a performance, and that leads to an underwhelming end product. Now, all that being said, the selection of the tracks is great and the quality of them still manages to shine through, but these are not the definitive versions of them, or the best versions. They offer an alternative that's inferior to what listeners already have on hand. Hands down, the best moments on the album is when Neil and the band ramp up into some of the more up-tempo picks, such as Time Fades Away. It livens up the atmosphere, which by this point has started to grow dim and dull, and switches it up just enough to keep the listener captivated. It should also be noted that Young already released an album taken from the tour back in 1973, and I feel that does a much better job of capturing the atmosphere of a live event and the passion behind the songwriting. I'm sure that this album would be a lot more captivating and mesmerising if you haven't already heard the previous versions of these songs, but as it stands I'm already familiar and find them far more impactful than the ones on this release, and those are the ones that I'll continue returning to and recommending. For these reasons I'll be giving it a 7.5 out of 10. Check this out if you're a hardcore Neil Young fan, I guess. It's an interesting historical nugget from his career, but not an essential release by any means. So that about wraps it up for this review. Thanks for watching. Please let me know your opinions of the album down in the comments below, along with any suggestions for any future reviews. Thanks for watching once again. Bye now.